Podcast with your host, Jake Weaver. Engineered by Cedric Swan. Hey everybody, we're back with another episode of Midnight on Earth. I'm your host, Jake Weaver, and we're here to bring you more knowledge, more light, and more love. Yet again, every guest is incredible. It's hard to say who's more incredible. Is anyone more incredible than the next person? I don't know. We have another incredible guest. His name is Zak Schwartz. We're going to talk about how we're archangels in training and so many other profound topics. But first, I need you to do something for me. Go to bluecobracbd.com. That is bluecobracbd.com. And there you will find Blue Cobra CBD oil, the highest quality CBD oil available for purchase on the market, period. Why is that? I tell you this every episode. If you haven't heard already, I'll tell you again. The extraction method, how they get the CBD out of the hemp, the cannabis plant matter, and into this oil is a proprietary method that was developed by a man named Howard Hitt, aka Big H, and it is called the Hitt extraction method. So no one else has it. It's just Howard. It involves no chemicals, no solvents, no gases, nothing unnatural was used in the extraction of the CBD from the hemp. The entire product is 100% organic. The hemp that was used for the extraction is 100% organic, Oregon-grown hemp. There really isn't anything like this product on the market. Again, as I keep saying, completely unique. We have a Midnight on Earth Blue Cobra CBD discount code. If you plug this code that I'm about to give you into the box at checkout, you get free shipping. And here's the code. MIDCBD. That's MIDCBD. Plug that in and you will get free shipping on any order in the continental 48 United States. And there is a money back guarantee. If you're unhappy with the product, you can keep the product. You do not have to give back the product. You can get a full refund, including your shipping. You can give it to your neighbor. You can give it to your pets. Howard's working on a CBD pet product that we're going to talk about fairly soon. And if you have any problems ordering, go ahead and email him at bluecobracbd@gmail.com. or call him at the number that's listed on the bluecobracbd.com website. So again, if you could please go check out this incredible CBD oil that I take daily. I put it in my shake in the morning because it's edible. It's topical. You can put it on your body, in your body. You can do all these things. It's incredibly amazing product. Like I said, there is nothing else like it out there in the ocean of CBD products. bluecobracbd.com. And if you could, please follow us on Instagram at midnight_on_earth. That is the address. You go there, click the follow button, then you know what's going on. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you go to get your podcasts, click the button that connects us so you'll always be aware of exactly what's happening. And the most important thing, as I always say, is to tell a friend. Tell someone that you know that loves these type of podcasts that these concepts that we talk about, I always say it's not about me, it's about the guests, the messages, the information these guests need to get out there. If you know people that are into those things, tell them about us. midnightonearth.com. Okay, we told you about Blue Cobra CBD. We did our social media shout out. And now we are going to talk to Zak Schwartz. I'm here in his office by his incredible graciousness. I'm so grateful for his generosity. I'm here in his office in Eugene, Oregon. I'm going to read his bio really quick. Here we go. Zak Schwartz, Ph.D., works as a psychologist in private practice in Lane County, specializing in intervention skills, relationship skills, chemical dependency, nonviolent intervention, and facilitates dynamic interaction skills workshops. Zak is served as Clinical Supervisor to Lane County Substance Abuse Treatment Programs and has worked clinically in this specialty since 1974. All right, thank you. Yeah. Zak helped design and implement several Level 1 and 2 CD treatment programs, both in Lane County government and in the Oregon State Correctional System. His dynamic interaction skills programs have been used nationwide and adapted to effectively train staff for business, industry, special events, and security teams. Zak has authored 3 books, including Changing Anger, an Archangel Training Manual, and his latest release, Effective Humanistic Intervention. Since 1973, Zak has lived and worked in Eugene, Oregon. And like I said, I'm here with him in his office in Eugene. And thank you so much, Zak, for letting me do this. So we're here to talk today about, really, we're going to focus on one of his 3 books, the Archangel Training Manual, which I highly recommend everyone go and check out. It's on his website, dynskills.com, and I'll remind you at the end. But check this book out because it talks about a perspective that we all need to tap into, a way of thinking, a way of understanding our place in reality, currently as humans. And I want to talk about that. It's called the School of Life. Zak, what is the School of Life?
Well, I thought, what do we take from this life? What matters? What's important to us? What has value in a lasting way across eons, across centuries, across whatever? Because whether something's big or small, any situation in my life, anything that I have, is it important? My truck is running, anything. I can make that a big deal, means a lot, and I have a lot of tension about it, or I can make it a little deal. I'm just a speck living on a grain of sand, and I'm not keeping the truck anyway. So I can arbitrarily adjust the relative size of something and its emotional effect on me, but and it gets me more in touch with my soul in some ways. I can talk about what I mean by soul later. To remember to make things small. The more upset I get, the more involved I get in the drama of my life and on the earth, the more I tend to blow things up. They get bigger, more important. Oh my God, you can't do that, or the truck's got to run. But if I make it smaller, I'm left with the question of what is valuable? What is the purpose? Just because I make it small doesn't mean I stop caring about it. It means I care for a different reason.
And that's part of these strategies of living in the school of life. But in your book, you're saying we're archangels in training in this school of life.
Yes, and that was a metaphor, but trying to evolve ourselves to a higher level of functioning, to a higher level of existing, that's a goal that matters.
Yes.
Everybody is, all of us and all of the things around us are made of both energy and matter. Correct?
Correct.
And so that goes back and forth. The things that are matter are go away in time. matter doesn't stay stable, but the energy that we're made of is forever. Okay. And so I'm made of atoms, but I'm also made of quanta, which are little units of energy.
Right.
So once they figured that out, they started studying energy, since everything's made of it. And the study of energy is called quantum physics.
Correct.
So what did they learn that affects me as a psychologist the most? And what they learned is that, A, the energy is eternal. So the light that you're made of is here forever. The atoms come and go. But the light is the same light that made the dinosaurs, that made the Big Bang, that made...
billions of years old.
It's been
eternal.
Here forever, right? And it's eternal. Keeps going. It moves, it changes, but it doesn't die. So my ego, say, that's my material self. That's what manifested from the energy at this particular moment in time and place, time and space. But the light that I'm made of has always been here. The second thing they figured out, and this is the trippiest one, is that those little quanta we're talking about are aware. They have consciousness. They're watching Jake and Zak interact, and they're learning from it. And they don't ask you to take that on faith, which is what I love about the quantum physics stuff. They say, here's the math, read it.
Right.
And the math looks pretty good. And so the little quanta are conscious. And they're eternal. And they communicate with each other. Quanta that are presently in Zak, some of them, there's trillions, are also talking with the ones in, say, Jake on a unconscious or subconscious level, maybe to my ego, but they're communicating all the time. And if you take, and this is a one law as I understand it in quantum physics, if you take two of those quanta, once they function together, like they're both part of Jake's nose, if you then separate them by 10 galaxies and 10,000 years, when you spin one, the other one instantly spins, like they're in touch forever.
Yes, quantum entanglement.
Connection, quantum entanglement. Right. So the universe you might look at as a quantum field, and it's all entangled, and that doesn't stop, and that's forever. So the quanta, the energy, the light, however you would call that, is constantly learning from watching us.
So evolution is something we talk about on the show. Is evolution is happening in all dimensions. You could say, like, the growth, the learning, the change. It's not static. Yes, simultaneously with us, these external dimensions, astral dimensions, they're not static. They're not stationary as some people might believe. But in fact, because the observation's happening, new information's being created, and that can only be meaning that there's forward movement. There's learning. There's new information. There's growth. In all dimensions.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible to think about.
And I believe that the quanta can, what they call in some spiritual books, can manifest at the speed of thought, move things from energy to matter and back again. So any kind of change is possible. The one thing the quanta, I believe, won't mess with is free will.
Sometimes you wish they would a little bit, right?
Of course. But every time I ask the energy to intervene arbitrarily, it smiles and laughs and says, no can do.
And in the book, you talk about asking the energy, you actually give it an initial CR, which means conscious representative.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what you're talking about right now is when you go within. This is an incredible part of your book is that there's this dialogue, not just with the reader and the author, but there's also this dialogue with you and what you call this conscious representative, which
you could think of as part of God or part of the light, or it's part of what we all are.
Yes, which gives you this intuitive information, which helps you grow. That was one of the great things about the book. But yes, go ahead.
So when I wake up in the morning,
creator's representative. I'm sorry.
Creator's representative. That's okay. The other one will also do. But when I wake up in the morning, what's automatic is that I work up as Zak. Zak is my ego. That's who I am from birth to death. That's who I am on the earth. And I think of waking up in the morning as rejoining the drama, as stepping onto the stage, being on the earth again, being Zak. That happens automatic. But the awareness I have as quanta have to bring that awareness to Zak. That doesn't happen automatic. That's why I do a morning ritual. So when I wake up, only takes a minute, but I got to do something that wakes up what I would call my soul, or the energy awareness in me. So I don't just get lost in the drama being Zak.
Right. You wake up in the morning, maybe something makes you grumpy, or
but the last thing I say, and this is recent, the last thing I say in my morning ritual is, let the ego choose what the soul suggests. So the soul only suggests. I can always get information. I can always get an opinion. But the free will belongs to Zak. And so and when my ego chooses in harmony with what the soul suggests, because it can only suggest, it can't mess with free will, or it won't, then that sort of partly guides my day. You know, if I find a wallet on the street with $500 in it and I need 500 to make my rent this month, for example, I look at my soul. The soul says, return the wallet with the money.
Right, exactly.
That was an easy one.
The ego's like,
but the ego's I got to pay the rent. And the soul says, it's entirely up to you. Do what you want.
Yes.
The soul has ultimate patience. You know, if this takes another 10,000 or 100,000 years, so be it.
Right.
I can wait. But you can evolve faster if you start listening now.
Love will wait forever. Isn't that interesting? Because it is an illusion, you would say. You talk about it being like the Buddhist concept of Maya, but it's even more than that. It really is a school. But is it the divine paradox, like the Hermeticists say, that it's both real and unreal at the same time? So while you're here in this school, what you do does create karma, and it has effect. It's not like a video game, but at the same time, I
think karma is what you still need to learn.
Yes, we were talking about that.
Whatever you finish this incarnation as Jake, whatever you need to complete your education is included in what's coming up in your next incarnation. What the energy does to evolve into matter again will contain those lessons you haven't mastered yet.
Right.
So that's how I think about karma. It's not a punishment or a reward or justice. It's about continuing my education.
Right. But it is rooted in cause and effect. The education might continue because of a deficiency in understanding. Right.
But a deficiency would indicate something you haven't learned yet.
Yes, exactly.
So
then boom, goes in the karma bag.
Right.
But
so the soul says, you can learn it now or you can learn it later. It's entirely up to you.
Are we in an illusion though? Is this a complete illusion? Is it a kind of a transitory dimension that's half illusion, half real?
Well,
what do you think about
this
school?
But if you, as a philosophy professor of mine when I was an undergraduate, said reality is a 5-sense hallucination.
You're right.
So if everything tells you that this pen is here, then it is. And
right.
That's not absolute. We don't know if it's really a pen or not. We don't know if it's on Mars or not. We don't know if we're hallucinating. But as long as all indications are that it's here, we're going to play it as it's here. And that's a shared reality.
And it is our agreed reality. But we can't change that, right? Like we can, as individuals, first develop ourselves personally, get ourselves centered, and then as we contribute to the greater consciousness, we can shape it in a way. We
are shaping it.
Right, but we can kind of get control of how we're shaping it now and shape it to the way we want.
That's interesting. And there was Autobiography of a Yogi. Have you read that?
Of course, yes. Yeah. Love it.
Classic. Hippie reading from the
Wow, it's a great book.
But they talked about physical and astral and causal beings. Causal beings, I think, can make the kind of changes you're talking about. They can change energy to matter at the speed of thought. But does this ego, Zak, want that power right now? I don't think that would be a good idea. I have a lot more to learn.
But there is
in skills and concepts before I get to a place where I can consciously do that.
But there is a co-creative experience that we're all contributing to. And even if we're aware of it or conscious of it or unconscious of it, it's still happening, right? So if we can...
Everything we do, say, and be automatically feeds the evolution of the of the reality created by the energy. So...
Yes, and you also talk about transpersonal psychology, which is something I want to tell people about. It's an incredible concept
If you look at history and systems, which you only would if you're a graduate student, but I did. But if you look at history and systems in psychology, history and what schools of thought came down over time.
Yes.
The first was psychoanalytic. That was Freudian, get at your subconscious stuff and free associate and work out your conflicts from your childhood. That was the first school of psychology. The second was behaviorism.
Yes.
So it's not about what's in your head. It's all about what you do. What we see is behavior, classical conditioning, operant conditioning. That's the second school. Still useful for some mechanisms in some ways. So is the analytic. They don't go away. But that was the second school of thought. The third was humanism. That was in the 50s and 60s that started on becoming a person, self-actualization, being a healthy ego, acting in a way that you were feeling good of or proud of or didn't have conflicts, working those things out as a whole human being. The whole is more than the sum of the parts. That was all humanistic psychology. And the fourth school, and the last one that I know of, is the transpersonal school, which is beyond a healthy ego. Where do we fit into the universe? Like, what is our soul about? What is the greater good for all energy? How do we fit some of our motivation and our power and what we learn in that direction, and working together as part of the greater whole?
Yeah,
and that's transpersonal psychology.
Integration, you're saying. Mm-hmm. I did write down what was in your book, which, again, I'm going to encourage everyone to check out those books. But Transpersonal Psychology encourages self-development to the point of enlightenment and connection with all beings and energy. The manner in which you think, feel, and act not only defines you and gives value to your experiences, but also maximizes your ability to contribute to the positive development of your community, world, and universe. So there you go. I thought that was so beautiful.
Yeah, I would say that. In fact, I did say that.
I think it was in your book.
It's funny, when you read that, I agree with it.
Like, that sounds so perfect. But that's true, because this is the integration. We talk about different rituals and, jam band rituals. We have episodes about the jam band rituals and what people get from psychedelic experiences. The next step is the integration. You have these transitory experiences that help you grow as an individual. And then you integrate that concept of transpersonal psychology, where you're then... How
does this contribute to the universe?
Yes. How can I help?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
As Ram Dass would say, how can I help?
How can I help? That's a Ram Dass quote. We used to go hear Ram Dass speak, and he would, like at Eugene South High School a couple of times, and like that. And everybody, as he was speaking, everybody in the audience would be nodding, like the agreement, and they could see it and
feel it.
And one moment he said, I see a lot of you nodding out there. If you already know all this, why did you come here tonight? and we as an audience kind of said, because it's a chance to commune. We get to see each other. It's not just you. And
people love affirmations.
Right.
Affirmations reinforce what you've learned.
Sure.
You hear it again, you can hear it 1,000 times. The more times you hear it, the better. In a way.
So it wakes up that part of me. I get higher being there than not being there. That's good.
Well, speaking of Ram Dass, he was definitely an archangel in training, and he's there as an archangel now on the other side, I believe. But how should we and how could we raise our vibration to tap into those angelic frequencies, to become more like the angels?
So each moment of the day, I have a chance to practice exactly that. Because what I'll tell people in a practical or sort of earthbound way is, ground is a higher priority than process or content. So content's whatever we're talking about, like we're making this pod show right now. More important to having an educational experience for my soul is how we treat each other, Jake and Zak, while we're doing this.
Right.
That's process. And then, how grounded are we? That's each of us. So ground comes first. If I'm not feeling grounded, I'll say, stop the tape. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Bring myself back to center. Bring my soul and ego to each thing that I'm doing. I want them to work together.
Right. That's an interesting point. So you want to bring your soul and your ego together in each thing that you're doing. That's
brushing my teeth, washing a dish. It doesn't matter what.
Because it's easy in the ritual or in the repetitive daily rituals that we do go to work. Some people, you get up, you brush your teeth. It's kind of hard to
stay conscious,
that.
to wake that up. Yeah. That's that morning ritual. And then it comes into grounding before I do anything all day. If my kids would come to me and they'd say, hey, Dad, I got a date tonight. I need $10 in the car keys, whatever. And they'd say, hey, Dad. And I'd slowly look up at them. And my kids, because they know me, would go, wait. Slow down, come to center, and then I can respond to you with a combination of both energies. Right. The thing that the ego must have that the soul does not have is free will. And free will belongs to the ego because the whole motivation, I think, to creating at all. There was let's take an arbitrary point in the cycle, as I think about it, that was all energy and no matter. So there was just energy sitting in the void.
Just bliss, essentially.
Bliss, peaceful, love. Love is oneness.
Yeah. Pure
not
divinity.
Sexual love, not romantic love.
No, just that.
But yeah. Agape is love as the oneness. And that's great. And the universe is a peace. But only for so many eons of existence. And then pretty soon the universe itself is going.
Right.
And it goes, hello, but nobody answers because it's sitting in the void. And so those feelings, I think, are very primal, which are boredom and loneliness, primal to the motivation for creation. So when I feel that, when the energy feels that, when we all feel that as one, the one becomes two. In the East, they call that yin and yang. In the West, they call it light and dark. Same idea. The universe polarizes and the one becomes two. That's less boring and that's less lonely. And when the one says hello, the other one goes, how you doing? And that's good. Right. And it says in the Christian Bible even, that God smiled. He was happy with that. Right.
Yeah.
But two's not enough. And pretty soon the two are going, well, I'm sick of looking at you. And I'm sick of looking at you. And they're sitting on the curb together.
There's just
with nothing to do.
New information. There's
two's not enough.
Yeah.
So at that thought, I think two's not enough. The two becomes 2 quadrillion, what we call the Big Bang.
Oh.
And so now there's enough pieces spread across enough space that we shouldn't get bored and we shouldn't get lonely.
Incredible amount of dynamics.
But there's a new problem. And the new problem is, and we talked about this briefly earlier, that if the quadrillion pieces that we've broken into don't have free will, then the whole thing's a big dollhouse and it will get bored and lonely again.
Yes, and then like you're playing a video game. It's fake. It's too artificial.
You can't play with Barbie and Ken indefinitely and not get lonely. They're not enough. So the pieces have to have free will. Done. And free will means on some levels that the energy, although it could, will not interfere in a way that takes away free will. So if I go to the energy and I say, are you love? Absolutely. I say, are you eternal? Absolutely. Can you turn energy into matter at the speed of thought? Absolutely. I say, good. Could you feed this little girl? She's starving to death. Right? And you can make that happen. So I don't understand why you're not making that happen. And so the energy says, yeah, at the speed of thought, I can make 1 billion worlds full of her favorite food. That's not a problem. But I'm not going to do that. And I go, yeah, why not? because the earth is a school and I can't mess with free will. So I can't just arbitrarily feed her. He said, but you could. You have free will. He said, so if you're concerned about her starving, why don't you give her half of that Big Mac you're eating? Right, exactly. and I go, this Big Mac? No, this is my Big Mac. And God says, exactly, that's why she's starving. And there's other bonuses like learning about starvation and appreciating food in the long run. The deliciousness, the appreciation of food in heaven partly depends, there's other factors, but partly depends on you understanding what it's like to starve. Like having immortal, invulnerable arms will bring you pleasure as long as you know what it's like to have a broken arm. They sort of exist on the same continuum. So the energy says to me, continuing this conversation, I can talk to you all day about what a broken arm is like, but check this out. And it goes, snap. My arm breaks like, wow, God damn it. He goes, see,
now you know.
A feeling is worth a million words. Right?
But have we...
So your experience and her experience and each of your experiences contributes to our growth and our appreciation and what we're learning. It doesn't make the painful things not hurt. They're horrible and they do hurt, like starvation, for example.
But have we existed in that spectrum of experience long enough as humans?
Yeah, I've asked that. When is enough enough?
Yeah.
And God laughs and says, stay in the moment. I'll let you know. So I don't know if I have one lifetime to go or 10,000 lifetimes to go.
Could be
on this journey of education, but the universe will let me know. He said it'll be clear when you get there. But you really should be focusing on how you act and think and be in the present.
Right.
Because that's where your power is, and that's where your free will is, and that's where everything really is. The future and the past only exist in our minds.
But do you think angels are something that we should be aspiring to be? Like, we're looking at these angels, these angelic beings, these archangels as role models, where we could say we have the potential to evolve and correct ourselves in such a way that we can raise our frequency to exist in that same bandwidth as the angels.
That's the road we're on. We're heading in that direction. It's not like, again, the Archangel Training Manual, all archangel was a metaphor.
Right.
So are we turning into those beings and those beings exist? Well, any beings exist. When my kids ask me if Santa Claus is real, I say, we laughed about this conversation over their whole lives. They're all adults now. But I say, is the concept of Santa Claus real? Because anything there's an idea of, the energy can create whenever it wants to.
Right.
So will Santa Claus in the flesh be at our house this year? The answer is always maybe.
Right, because the concept is real.
Yeah, the concept's real, and if the energy decides that makes sense, it'll happen.
But do you think personally that we should kind of use angels in that way of thinking as role model type situations where we're aspiring to exist in that way?
I think we know, and it's hard in today's politics. The last 5 years.
I just try to get away from that.
But I think we know what our ideals are.
Yeah.
I think insight is very cheap. If you're a psychologist, you learn that insight is easy to get and also doesn't change behavior.
Right.
Because how we act is not based on our insight.
The proof's in the pudding.
When we do things impulsively, habitually, learned-wise, reactively, instinctually, all those behaviors have nothing to do with free will. We get held responsible for those things, or accountable at least, but responsible means the ability to have a choice. And I don't think in a lot of those things we do. So why does the guy who, say, promises monogamy have an affair with the secretary? And well, if you didn't think that was a good idea, you wouldn't have done it. Is, I think, bullshit.
Yeah, because it doesn't address the
idea and choice had nothing to do with that.
Right, there was levels.
He promised something he couldn't promise, because you can't promise to control something that you can't control.
Right.
That doesn't totally let him off the hook, and we have to be real with our accountability and what our commitments are.
Sure.
But gaining that free will, if you are grounded, for example, if you're what I call grounded, centered, relaxed, focused, feet on the ground, in touch with both the soul and the ego, you're like at the center of a bicycle tire. You have 100 spokes to choose from. You have closer to what I would call free will about your next movement. But if you're not grounded, if you're reacting, you're in a spoke. And when you're in a spoke, you have almost no choice at all. So I do a lot of anger management work, for example. Somebody loses their temper and then does things that I believe they're accountable for, because that's the way our system works. But if you throw the chair through the window, you're paying for the window. But not responsible for it all. That's what losing your temper means.
Right.
Yeah, we still blame those people. Oh, you must think it's okay to do that because you did it. But that's bullshit. The truth is out of control. And I couldn't promise total control of that if I wanted to.
Right. And there's always, as you're saying, as a psychologist, these underlying levels of information which contribute.
All kinds of stuff.
I'm sure you've seen it all.
You say behavior is overdetermined. So there's a pile of variables, only some of which would make a behavior happen, that are all true. Yeah, so, you can go on forever about the variables that are, why did I do that? Well,
I would say that type of thinking is the road to forgiveness, which is another step towards a united.
What kind of thinking? That I accept?
Yes, that
I don't control that.
Yes, that you can. Yes, but you can apply that to other people as well. When you have situations that maybe you felt like you were slighted by, that you could.
And when we intervene with our kids, with people at the fair, wherever I work, with misbehavior, it's all about accountability and resolution. It's not about blaming.
Right.
It's not about.
Like, just get it fixed.
Responsibility, think of it literally as the ability to respond, the ability to apply my free will to a moment.
Right.
Which, if I'm getting excited, say, is only good for so long. You know, as a counselor I worked with in a drug abuse treatment business, and she said, willpower works on addiction the way it works on diarrhea. You know, you can only hold it for so long.
Yeah, you have to. It's hard.
So treatment has to be more than just willpower.
Right.
Be strong. Don't do that anymore. You know, just say no.
It's possible for very few, but it takes so much discipline to
or for a while, or within a certain frame. But when you get out of that frame, you're not going to have that control. Other things have got to change. So
what other things do you think that people should be aware of that could help them change their frequency to such a way where they're more receptive to people, where they're more open and they're growing? Like, what are some of the things that mainstream society has taught us that's maybe holding us back that we can change in our daily lives?
Like, if you have some of this awareness that you're in archangel training or spirit on a journey, then there's really no difference. The boundary between me and this chair, say, is arbitrary. The actuality, there's no boundary at all. It's just a quantum field, and I'm part of it. So the chair is part of me, and I'm part of the chair. And when I let myself see things that way, so I sometimes call that soul part of me my Obi-Wan self. So there's Zak and there's Obi-Wan Zak. And Zak is the ego with the free will and the passion and the feelings and the matter. And Obi-Wan Zak is the light and the love and the energy and the
higher
wisdom.
Self.
Well, what some call their higher self.
Sure.
And I have both, and they have to work together. So my higher self can see the connection between me and the chair. So my daughter says to me, how do I get in touch with my Obi-Wan self? And I say, look at this tree. And she goes, yeah, tree. And I go, okay, now close your eyes. You're one with the universe. You're 14 billion years old. You're love and you're connected and your energy. And when you feel that, open your eyes and look at the tree. And she says, oh, hello, tree. And then she says, it's like doing acid. I said, yeah, but you didn't need a chemical to get there. You just needed to close your eyes for a second and let your being go there.
Yeah.
And then there it was. So each moment of your day, again, how connected are you with what you're interacting with? How connected are you with that microphone in your hands? Besides just the technology.
Sure.
You're speaking through it. But are you one with it?
Right.
It makes a perceptual difference. You treat it differently. Like the difference between, tree and, oh, hello, tree. Those are very different.
But is it
the same tree?
Is it a paradigm issue at that point? Are you then, with your mind, instantly blocking out all of these pre-programmed paradigms and going back to the original divine paradigm of, like you were saying?
Well, a pre-programmed paradigm would be that the tree and you are different.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Right. Yeah, and you go back to that original paradigm.
No, we're not different.
Yeah,
that's an illusion, and that's part of creation. And part of our school is to have that ego boundary that separates you from all things. I remember one Star Trek episode where this being of light and gas became materialized as a person in the show. And the first thing it said when it materialized as a person, he says, God, you're so alone. You're so separated from each other.
Right. Wow.
Because here he was, joining with the ether. I know Star Trek, but
I love Star Trek.
Here he was joining with the ether, and here he was with this clear boundary. That clear boundary is important to creation, as important as free will. The pieces have to act independent of each other and independent of the light.
It's almost like a data node, right? You're one individual node of data.
Yeah.
And then in order for you to have that individual experience, you have to be contained in a way.
So yeah, it needs a shell, a boundary.
Yes.
You see because you see what something's not. The way I can see the poster on that wall is that I recognize I was talking to a friend, and he said, you know why I don't believe in God? I said, why not? And he said, because I can't see God. So I said, you know why you can't see God? And he said, yeah, Zak, tell me why I can't see God.
Yeah, please.
It's a great conversation. And I said, because the way we see things, the way our eyes and brains work is based on boundaries. We figure and ground. So if the poster on the wall there is a figure, if I want to see the poster, then everything that's not the poster becomes ground. That's why you only see Volkswagens on the road when you buy a Volkswagen.
Right.
It's figure and ground. They were always there. It's always about the same, but it's what you see the boundary. I said, but the energy, call it God, call it energy, call it your Obi-Wan self, whatever, that is inclusive. That is everywhere and everything all at once. So there's no ground. So ironically, you look around and all you see is God, but you can't see God at all because there's nothing that's not God.
Right.
And how do you bring that sort of awareness to each moment of your day? That's a good lesson. That's part of being in the school, is to always have those two, your ego and your soul, working together in a harmonic way.
And that's a starting point. So you're getting in touch with your soul. You're figuring out that light being aspect of yourself, being conscious of that, your conscious self, as some people call it, and then bringing that into your everyday experience.
So running around without that connection, I think, is the gate to hell.
Oh, man.
That's painful. And that's the first philosophy I studied when I was a philosophy major in my first couple of years undergraduate, was hard existentialism, which doesn't easily hold up. It's Kierkegaard. There's a bunch of guys that are hard existentialists, Camus, and what you see is what you get. It's all flesh. It's all ego.
It's hard when you've had
gone. There's
any
nothing else.
Spiritual experience. It's hard to relate to that.
Well, and also the whole thing's a downhill trip. You're going to get old and rot and die, and
worm
that's
food.
The end. There's nothing else. So the soft existentialists came from that, like Franco, who survived the concentration camp, and he said people who had some sense of meaning or spirit had a better survival rate in those camps.
Viktor Frankl,
Viktor Frankl. Yeah, the hard existentialists would just kill themselves. I mean,
they're like, it's over.
Nothing good to look forward to.
Right. Which is a sad state. It's sad. It's sad
and
because
difficult.
It implies that there's some disconnection with the spiritual side. But as we get connected more with our ego, as we incorporate that dualistic experience,
soul and ego thing,
then what do? We become leaders. We become teachers. We help our fellow man get to that point as well. Is there an impetus to do that?
I came to a point where I realized that everything I do, I don't care if I'm a psychologist or a plumber or a podcast host, everything I do has meaning on the level we're talking about.
Right.
And the lessons are there and the value is there. I just got to see it that way.
Right.
And then I start to be that in what I'm doing. And it will apply to any profession. And
do you think it helps people as they're around your energy, or just doing it? Do you think that helps contribute to other people shifting in that way to help them align?
Of course it does.
Tell me about that.
Not one-to-one and not completely. And someone's got to do their karma. They're on what they still need to get an education for at their own rate. So some people would listen to this whole show or read the Archangel book or 100 other transpersonal books that are equally good like it, and get zero from it. my folks who I loved, and they were, they were mixed bag as parents, but they were World War II people. I grew up in the 50s. And they were pretty hard existential. If I was talking about the Archangel Training Manual to my dad, he would cock his head and go, pineapple head, hippie logic, whatever.
Right. It's just because it's unfortunate that generation of what they had existential realities to deal with.
Yeah. It's all about willpower, That's how we took Okinawa,
right.
Whatever.
We could do anything. But the thing is that, that integration, it changes you as a person, and then your frequency shifts, and then you're resonating a certain frequency and it's
nice to know that light that you are can actually arbitrarily do anything. So It's not stuck. It can change the material reality anytime it wants to, as long as it doesn't break the rule of not interfering with free will.
So that's part of the school of life, though. That's the goal of the school of life, is to get to that point where you've integrated those things and more. What do you think the goal, what's the graduation point?
Is to have a life that we can distinguish, you're Jake and I'm Zak, and we act independent of each other so that we can share love and keep each other interested, keep things entertaining without causing fundamental harm. Or being greedy or being jealous, and learning how to function with free will and not be those things. That's part of our education. That's part of what matters a lot.
So having our choices.
So when I lived communally, for example, which I did for some years of my life, we learned from Buddha, our understanding, of course, that loving something is not the problem. Attachment is the problem. So we had things like I'd have a guitar or a T-shirt that I really liked. That was fine. But as soon as I grasped it, as soon as I got attached to that item, like I'm holding my guitar, but suddenly somebody wanted to borrow it, and
you're like, not my favorite guitar.
As soon as I felt that, the rule in the commune was give it away. Break the attachment immediately.
Wow.
This is my favorite T-shirt. God damn it, I don't want. Ah, shit. I'll take the shit off. It's yours now.
Yeah. Well, it's incredible virtue.
Because if we live in the light, we have forever. When nothing's really lost, we can get that T-shirt. That little girl can have the food. You can have whatever you want. It's only in a very small and temporary and focused way that things are finite, and we have to be sad when they go away.
Right.
When my father was dying, he said, hug me. Last time you're going to get to hug me. And I whispered in his ear, and I hugged him. For now, I'll be along in a minute. Save us a tea time.
Yes, see you in 5 minutes. Really,
I'll be there in a second.
Yeah, because like you said in your book, when you're at the end, it's going to feel like life was moments. Look at the
front of the car and see the endlessness of the road coming up. Look out the back of the car and see how fast things go away.
Right.
It's just like whole thing. I've read spiritual accounts, transpersonal books that would say, when you get out of this, you're going to be amazed, A, that you thought it was a continuous reality, and B, that it took any time at all. The whole thing is going to feel like a 30-second dream.
Yeah. But you did point out in your book that perspective, that level of awareness shouldn't detach you from caring about how things come out.
No, you just care for a different reason.
Yes. It's not just like, well, that's just how
I'm loyal to my wife. Not because she's loyal to me, I believe she probably is, not because she deserves it, and not because it's important on some other level, but only because I want loyalty to exist in the universe, and I'm the only example I can be sure of.
Right.
So if I stop doing it, I can't trust anybody.
Right. So even though you see that layer of illusion, you don't want to be detached.
So I have to, to master that virtue becomes the value and my goal and my motivation in doing the moments of my day.
And this is all part of the Archangel training. I mean, this is essentially the training, you could say, of spiritual development as a human. Like, why are we here? Why are you here as a human? We're here, like you're saying, as a school of life. We're here to learn and develop, and all the things you're talking about seem to fall in sync with the great spiritual teachings of
we
the
can't
world.
have the universe where we would all want it, where everybody loved each other and acted right and took care of each other, and still maintain free will unless we learn each how to do that on our own.
Yes. But will there be a point, in your opinion, in your perspective, where we do get to that point as humans where we all not necessarily graduate from this dimension with death?
Maybe we've already been there. It's like that idea in the
yes.
Matrix that this is not the first time there was a Christ figure, or this is not the first time. Things have been cycling forever.
Right. You think
so
about
where is
fate,
an arbitrary point where it all goes back to one, and we're back to love and peace? And then the same motivations start again. In a certain amount of time, we start to create, and the created pieces have to have free will, and the free will pieces have to learn how to manage that in a way that's harmonious with the spirit. And have we been there before? Certainly possible. I don't know, but it seems like it.
People have theorized. You think of the Aztecs and the four worlds. And,
people have talked about the Horus, who lived a couple of thousand years before
yes.
Jesus and was the same kind of figure.
Right.
How much do these cycles repeat? Hard to say.
It's really hard to say, but I will tell you this: the Hopi. I don't know if you've heard this before, but the Hopi, the Native American tribe, the Hopi.
Yeah, I know.
They recently, and when I say recently, it was like probably 7 or 8 years ago. They sent a representative out for as a spokesman for the tribe, and they said, in human history, previously we've blown ourselves up. I'm I'm paraphrasing here.
Yeah.
And we blow ourselves up 4 other times, but this time,
4 other times.
yeah, they say that 4 other times, and
That's right.
that we've had incredible technology. But this time we chose what they call the one heart path, or the single heart path, where we are now at a new place that we've never been to before. We've passed the point previously where we blew ourselves up, and we're now in a new place. I think it was around 2009. Cool. We're in a new place of just forward growth. So I'm hoping, I want you to tell me what you think about this. I'm hoping that we can unite as a planet and come to that place where we're truly in love with each other and find that polarity out in the universe with other races that are less evolved. That maybe as we're out there as humans, this divine spark, this evolved being, we see these other humanoid souls.
I kind of believe we'll find some further along and some not as far along.
Right. And then that's where the polarity exists. And then that way we don't have to do that on ourselves.
No. The learning all converges too. So we don't all have to learn exactly the same things, because everything we learn contributes to the whole.
Right. I'm just hoping we can get there as humans, that we can truly have a united planet.
I mean, this last 5 years, what I call the Trump years, have been very taxing for that. You take something like racism and look how deeply set that is.
It's unfortunate.
And how hard a fight there is to resolve that. And there's other things like that.
And that's the power of paradigms.
So we're not done yet. You and I might sit here and immediately agree that all creatures should be treated with equal respect. And it may be not even just humans, but all creatures.
Right.
And but getting every ego to that place of development.
10 billion egos.
Fuck. Right. So we're not done.
But just doing the personal work, and this is something I want to tell people, is that just doing this personal work that we're talking about, that helps further that mission along.
Absolutely. Every bit of it helps.
Yes. Even
and when I check with my Obi-Wan self, he says, actually, you can only go forward. Yes. So everything's evolving. You can't waste time or lose time or go backwards.
So even mistakes
everything is
have
part
value.
Of the education. Yeah.
Wow. Let's think about that for a second. You can only go forward. You can't go backwards. So people may think that they made mistakes. They hurt someone. Maybe they made a bad investment. Who knows where their mistakes
Anything in your past, anything from this moment right now back. All you can do with that, I think, is learn from and grow. What did you learn? How did you grow? How are you different now? That's all that light cares about. It's not what you did yesterday, but who you turned into. What'd you learn from it?
Right. Are you doing the same thing that you were doing before?
Are you still stuck in that pattern, or are you out of it?
But humans, we're kind of, I could say collectively, I love to address ourselves collectively, because I truly believe, like you talk about in your book, that we are all one. That to me is the most fundamental understanding.
Yeah, ultimately true.
So I like to talk about humans collectively, but so can we get there collectively?
I used to think of trying that the Obi-Wan part of me is what I wanted to grow into, just being that. Because that's the wisest, most loving part of me.
Sure, yeah.
But more lately, I've thought, no, it's to create harmony between the ego and the soul. There's a reason that we're separate. And our egos count too. And a healthy ego maybe follows the suggestion of the soul, but it's the ego's choice. And so to evolve to that place where they're working well together.
That's really where it's at, the balance.
If I talk to the Obi-Wan stuff, he'd be a breatharian, but I'm still eating a range of foods.
Right.
But my ego, being matter and flesh and passion, can do that. Can farm or hunt or whatever.
Right.
My soul goes, and so we're learning how to work together because both are, as it turns out, matter. Both are important.
Right. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. Everything has a purpose.
The separation, the boundary, our egos, that and you, which is Jake, and then me, which is Zak, that was part of the point of the whole creation, is to have us be able to work, to keep each other company and keep each other interested and interact. We each having free will, free of the will of the other, free of the will of the light. Just do whatever you want. So learning how to use that power correctly is a way of describing the whole curriculum. That's what we're doing.
And that also falls into the teachings of the magical realm, where people talk about magic and what magic is and getting in control of that energy. What do you describe magic as? How would you define the true magic?
It's like we said earlier, energy, the quanta, that I remember are conscious, and that's a hard concept to take in for some people, for sure, for most of us. But the quanta are conscious. And what Autobiography Yogi say he described as causal beings can turn energy to matter at the speed of thought.
Right.
And that doesn't require a natural science or stuff we can necessarily explain. So when, in my earlier example, when the universe said to me, look, I can make 1 billion planets full of her favorite foods at the speed of thought, that's magic. Because it can just happen by the will of the universe. And that's not governed by the same rules that govern our reality of egos, of who we are on the planet.
Is part of our evolution then getting more control of our willpower in order to use that magical
Absolutely.
energy?
And focusing your will is what any meditation is about.
Yes.
Those are focus activities. Visualizing yourself on a higher plane, to me, is not meditation. It's a visualization. Also has value, but it's different. Meditation is just, can you hold your mind on one thing, and when your focus becomes perfect, you get closer to a causal ability to changing. If I want an orange in my hand, the energy around my hand can become an orange. But making that happen without growing an orange tree, that would be magic.
Yes. But it is possible.
Can some people on this planet do it? I believe so.
I think so too.
I mean, I was watching a documentary on a sect of Tibetan Buddhist monks, and they were doing the trippiest shit from levitation to sitting naked in the freezing snow and staying warm to, managing their will and their energy to use that love and use that light and do magic, what we would call magic. And I'm sitting watching with my wife, who was raised rural Oregon, and she's great. We've been together 40 years, but she's watching this movie on the Tibetan Buddhists, and she's going, God, these are really nice people. I said, yeah, they're the nicest. Like, their God is Amitabha. Their God is love. Their God is oneness. I mean, you're not going to meet anybody nicer than what they teach and practice.
And then they get access to this other layer of reality.
Don't you find that in yourself, that you can get more magical if you get yourself higher?
I think every spiritual teacher has told us that. Run the gamut.
Sure. But whenever I've done magic, it's always been with the claws, with the rider that says, if this is going to do any harm, if it works, like if I'm going to move a cloud, you know, if moving that cloud is going to do some harm, I'd rather the magic didn't happen. Yeah,
Right.
I think it's Chief Dan George and Little Big Man trying to die, and then waking up and sitting up and going, sometimes the magic works.
Sometimes it doesn't.
It doesn't.
That's funny. But, you know, this is part of humans' evolution that we're talking about so many things, which is so powerful. And I really appreciate you being so generous with your energy. But as we evolve as humans, I think we're going to incorporate these abilities, right? This is like the new human and the new earth. What do you think of this new earth concept?
When I checked with that part of me, he says, and we all have that same part.
Yes.
They're one. And he says, of course, more ability comes with more skill and more education.
Which is more fun. Let's just say that.
Well, and you won't do as much harm. Like, I don't want to be a causal being today. God only knows what would pop out.
Like you were saying, yeah.
I could destroy things in a
But
split
as
second.
you evolve.
But as you evolve, you can get to a place where being able to do that becomes more plausible, it'll work. But you have to think of the control, the groundedness I would need to be able to produce that orange in my hand and have nothing bad come of that. The love and connection I'd have to feel, the wisdom I'd have to feel, the skill I'd have to have at focus so that I trusted myself to even do that. I mean, we're just learning. Do we have that place to grow to? I think so.
It's amazing to think about that we have that potential coming. One thing I did want to ask you, and you do talk about it in your book, is the importance of goal achievement in the spiritually productive life. I think this is something that a lot of spiritual people take for granted, to be honest, because they feel that if they're spiritually developed, they have a great relationship with their mysterious,
self.
and they have enough material situations to survive, that's enough. That's enough. They hit a plateau of development. There's no more reason to grow or develop because they got a great relationship with God. They got a few things. Their bills are paid.
Not bad.
Not
it's
bad.
almost like a humanistic goal of self-actualization.
Right.
All my physical needs are met. I'm acting in a generally moral way.
Right.
Sure.
But as we hit these development levels, should we then shift and say, no, we need to
There's always
create
more to learn.
bigger goals.
What's my karma? What's the next lesson?
And that are rooted in service as well.
And that what I already achieved becomes a base.
Right.
That allows me to go to the next place.
So is goal achievement then very important for a spiritually productive
At any
person?
given time, I think, in our development across as million lifetimes, what's the next step? What are our long-term goals? What are our short-term goals? What are our action plans? What are we doing this afternoon that fits that chain? So a short-term goal by itself won't move you, but if you have a short-term goal, then action plan. How are we going to make that happen? How are we going to try that? And then how does that fit into my activity list today? And then if I do something about that, if I take that next step, side issue, I tend to experience that as an antidepressant.
Yes.
But if I make that whole plan and then don't do it, the same chain can be a depressant.
Oh, it could be even worse because then you feel like a failure that can't complete anything.
Where are you getting to? No place.
But it is important if you're able-bodied and able-minded to have these service-related goals as you develop as a human being.
Sure.
To utilize your talents, wherever your talents lie, to keep giving back, to keep moving this thing forward. Yeah. I think some spiritual people can get complacent.
It's something I've done across my career. Now I got to make some money in my situation to support the house, support the family, whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
But I have never, in my entire practice from the beginning, which started in the early 70s, but licensed independent from the early 80s, never have I not seen one because of money.
Right.
So an insurance company can only tell me whether they'll pay for it or not. They can't tell me I can't see the person.
Right.
So we can meet and talk, and if we can't cover it with a third-party payment or whatever, it's a sliding scale. Pay whatever you can.
Right, and that's a beautiful practice, and that's how you give back in your
And
world.
Materially, it's enough. I've supported my family. I can pay my bills.
Sure.
Okay, and I got to do that to some degree, but I've never said to someone I won't work with you because of money.
Right.
I won't do that, and that comes from my. And if I look at my Obi-Wan self, he goes, That's a good policy.
And it's important to keep growing, though.
Not to you, but that's a good policy.
It's to keep developing, to keep
yes.
reading, to keep learning. Like that's you can't just stop.
As soon as you stop remembering, you're starting to forget.
Oh, damn!
And if you forget, then you got to do it again. So how many times you go around this block? You know?
Man.
We were watching a movie last night. I mean, there's examples all over the place, but it was Mutiny on the Bounty. Mel Gibson, Anthony version of Mutiny on the Bounty.
Okay.
And the sailors are, for fun, sitting on the deck taking pot shots at dolphins. Well, did you ever read Son of the Cyclone? Do you know anything about dolphin intelligence? I mean, they are higher creatures than we are.
So actually, my last guest says that
shooting
dolphins
at
are
them for fun.
humans.
I mean, what kind of human? What are you doing? You know, it's atrocious behavior. And then you say, "Well, how close are we to the end?" I say, "Well, we got a ways to go if we're still doing shit like that."
It's hard to, our last guest actually believed that we evolved out of the ocean and that dolphins are actually humans that stayed in the ocean.
Right.
Yes.
Right. But the longer, bigger brains, they do trippy shit. I had a doctoral partner who went one Christmas on a trip to swim with dolphins in Florida. Never came back. She spent the rest of her professional career, as far as I know, working with dolphins.
Oh my God!
She's learning from dolphins. You know? Wow. Because they think they have, now they're on an edge, as far as they can tell, at least what I read in dolphin research, of not having fully substantiated egos. So it's not so important to them whether the one dolphin stays alive. They think more specially.
Right.
So they're more at one with the species. So they'll do what's best for the species.
Yeah.
Not so much they're concerned about living longer than you, that dolphin. No, he's thinking, what's good for the group?
What's good for the tribe?
Yeah, they're naturally socialistic, which half of this country doesn't believe in. But
it's hard to say because, look, I don't do anything political in my life because there's so much judgment there. And it's so hard for people to not get caught up in believing that because somebody thinks a certain way that they're somehow identified with this group.
How many people in our society right now, winning or losing by their standards, are playing King of the Mountain? You know, competing with each other for who gets the most money.
Yeah, and it scales up. I mean,
oh God, you know. So that's my whole problem with. I'm basically, I would describe myself as a social democrat and a progressive, as you might have guessed, but I don't. You know, the solution offered is, tax the rich and spread the wealth, and which I think is a great idea. But good luck getting money out of a billionaire.
Right. And
so whatever you do to the laws or the rules or the taxes or whatever, there's ways around it.
They'll pay somebody half the amount of money to find the loopholes.
As long as so it's all about that. But people I've worked with who are wealthy at that level, and they're not all bad people by any stretch.
No, not even close.
To learn that they have value, to read the Archangel Training Manual or a book like it, to push them to get that as the value of their existence, not the amount of dollars in the bank.
Right.
They find some of them extremely rewarding and attractive. They think it's great to have a center that's not based on that.
Yeah, and it's really, sometimes you have to look at things from the other perspective, because I've learned that both people are right. Everyone's right from their perspective, and they have to
True enough.
Learn to see other people's perspective. And then,
so when you validate, if you and I sit in this room and somebody sees you later and say, what's Zak's office like? Actually, you don't know. And if you answer subjectively, you would say, here's what I saw when I was there. But what I saw is a map in my head.
Yes.
And the map in my head is half sensation and half projection. So everybody sitting there would have seen the room different.
Yeah. They all have their own
Which
maps.
one's the most real? Well, that's not a useful question, even.
Right.
But to validate someone is that everything you feel and do will always make a kind of sense based on your maps. If I take your behavior and I stick it into my maps, it may not make any sense at all.
Yes.
That was crazy. But if I understand your maps and go, oh, I get it. You did that because you saw things this way. That's called validation. When you validate someone, that's what you're doing. You don't have to agree. You don't have to see it the same way.
And if we all validated each other, we
That
wouldn't
would
be at odds with each other. I think
To
that's
some degree. And part of goodwill is understanding that each person's a hero in their own movie. That's seeing them as a good person trying to do something good. Almost everyone describes themselves that way. Right?
Well, Zak, I mean, we've had an incredible conversation. There's so much that we can talk about. You know, we'll have you back if you let us. You know, I'd love to come back and do this again
This is
sometime. Oh, we've had an incredible conversation. It's going to influence people all over the world for
And you're a
really
fun guy
long
to talk
time.
to about
Oh,
these things.
Dude, I love you, man. You're incredible. Well, we're similar frequency humans. We matched each other's frequency, and here we are.
Okay.
But one thing I want to ask you before we go, one more awesome question, incredible thing. What do you think of the Bodhisattva concept, where we talk about the school of life?
Yeah, I struggle with it.
You talk
because-
about graduation.
To me, Bodhisattva is my dedicating myself to stay until the whole planet gets there.
Correct. Yes.
And sometimes I think that's a noble idea.
Yes.
And sometimes I think I'm getting the hell out of here. It just depends on what I'm experiencing that day.
Well, sometimes you might need a break. You're like, can I just go to Regulon 9
Oh
for
my
like
God.
2
I don't
lifetimes?
want to live in this greed or this racism or this sexism or this stuff that's
Right.
going on here, and it ain't gonna fix overnight.
But it's up to us to change it, I guess.
And-
I guess that's the deal.
It's up to us to change it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I guess so.
And I think there's evolution. I have trust that it's evolving, that eventually it'll get there. But do I want to stay for the whole movie? I don't know.
Well, your voice is now recorded
I
forever.
respect Bodhisattvas. I love it, but it's a hard
It's a hard choice.
hard thing to dedicate myself to.
I think
Okay.
they're out there, but if you think about how we're loving people and how we're spiritual people and we truly have a relationship with the divine, that every time it seems like once we get there, we're going to be like, yeah, I guess we'll go back. Because like you said, it feels like 5 minutes. You're like, what's another 5 minutes? What's
and,
another?
and every bodhisattva, every person on a transpersonal mission, which I think on one level we all are, whether we believe it or not, whether our ego believes it or not, we're all learning and we're all one. So in the long run, whether you went on with your path and came back, or whether you dedicated yourself to bodhisattva and stayed, it's not going to matter.
Right, because it's still part of the
We all
the perfect
learn.
path.
We'll all love each other in the end.
And as Ramdas says, as he's quoting his guru, Neem Karoli, everything's perfect. So
Yeah. What's the problem?
Well, Zak, thank you so much for being here. I want to tell people where to find you. Of course, you have a radio show, which is on 97.
I don't know. It was on. Yeah, it was on.
Oh, it's not anymore.
Well, I haven't made one in a while. So it's
Okay.
not that they wouldn't welcome me back, or I might not do more shows later. But I did about 30 of them
Which are on your
that
website.
are on the website.
So let's tell people where to find your website. It is DYN Skills.
Right. SKILLS.com.
Yes, DYNSKILLS.com. And there you can find his books, Changing Anger, an Archangel Training Manual, which I highly recommend. I haven't read the other 2 books yet. So
Those are more skill development, concept development. So training yourself mechanically, and what are the mechanics of
Little less
managing the
esoteric.
anger? Not as esoteric. Right.
But, Changing Anger, Archangel Training Manual, Effective Humanistic Intervention. Check out those books. And on his website, even though he's not recording episodes now, there are the previous recordings. You can go there and listen to those.
For sure.
And learn something from it. Zak, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate
Thank you, Jake. This is fun.
Is there anything you want to leave people with before we go? 105 countries around the world.
I say, if you can get a hold of this kind of motivation that your life's about learning, hang on to it and feed it. You have to focus it every day. The tricky thing about the earth, or one of the tricky things about the earth, I find, is that as soon as you're not remembering, you're forgetting. So, and if you get lost in the drama, then you forget your mission, and you lose your center, and that affects your ability to have free will or to have the love. So you have to consciously work at keeping it alive.
Well, that's a beautiful statement, Zak. Thank you so much. Hold on here through the outro music, and everyone, incredible discussion. I hope you learned something from that. I know I did. We'll see you next week. Midnight on Earth.